Hello, this is Heather Hoffman, and today I've got a fun blue leaf card, kind of some untraditional colors, using some of Reverse Confetti's new release, particularly featuring the new Fall Foliage stamp set. Now, I think fall is one of my favorite seasons, so I was really excited about this stamp set, but I also thought it would be kind of fun to twist some things out of the traditional fall colors. So I'm starting off by stamping. I wanted to stamp every leaf from the stamp set on a piece of Tim Holtz Ranger watercolor cardstock, and I'm doing it on the reverse side so that it's a smoother finish. It makes it a little easier to stamp and get a good impression. I fit all of my stamps on there so I could do it all in one big stamped image, and using my MISTI so that I could stamp twice just to get a really deep, dark, nice impression. I left room around the sides enough to be able to die cut these when I'm done, but I'm going to start off by watercoloring, and I did this completely with just one shade of blue watercolors, and just by building up the color. And I started by just adding a light wash, and I kept it kind of messy. I didn't try and get all the way to every little bit of the edge on everything, and just kind of keep building by putting a lighter color or a little bit of a lighter wash, and then coming in with the darker. You're just going to get some great variation of color, kind of an ombre effect on each of these. It's just kind of fun, the difference that you get, and letting the colors flow out on their own. You could do this in any color combo. Something about the blue just kind of seemed fun, and it adds just kind of a rich, deep color to them as well. And I loved being able to use every single leaf from the stamp set as well. And then as I finish those, I'm going to come in and add even more depth and shading all the way through on those. And then once I finish painting these, I'm going to set them aside to dry really well before I try and die cut them. You could set them a little quicker with a heat tool if you wanted. I just like the air dry effect. Now I've added my confetti cuts, the coordinating fall foliage, and I already die cut these. I used a little tiny bit of post-it tape to hold everything in place so I could die cut it all in one big panel. So now I have all my individual pieces, and I'm pulling out a panel of pattern paper from the brand new 6x6 Abundant Autumn pattern paper pad. I've already trimmed it down to the size of an A2 card, and I chose my sentiment I wanted, which is also from that Fall Foliage stamp set, and I kind of picked where I wanted to put that, and I'm planning an arrangement of the leaves just so that they'll all fit on my card. Now on the back of each, just to add some dimension and fun, I'm using foam adhesive to mount each of the leaves, just because it's going to pop them up off the background and make it a little bit more interesting than just mounted straight on, and it kind of helps those leaves to pop off the background a little bit extra. You could use small foam dots or anything like that. I just use my big roll of foam tape, and I'm just cutting it down to small pieces to fit in the back of each of those leaves, and keeping my sentiment adjusted on in the spot that I want to stamp it. I have not actually stamped that sentiment yet. I'm waiting until I have all my leaves arranged the outside first, just to make sure, partly to make sure nothing moves, and partly I was afraid if I moved the leaves I'd forgot where I'd put them. And then so another alternative, if you want to stamp that sentiment first, snap a picture of it with your phone so you know where you put each of those leaves, and then you can stamp your sentiment. But with the MISTI, it's still, even with the foam adhesive, it's easy to stamp that sentiment in afterwards. So I grabbed my Midnight dye ink, and I'm going to stamp that in there. Now to finish this off, I wanted it to have a little more of a whimsical feel with the watercolors and the leaves. So I grabbed out some black liquid watercolors. That's kind of my new favorite thing lately for adding splatters. And before I add those, I put a little bit in there. I'm going to use a really fine little brush, and as I started to do it, I remembered I like to mask off just kind of roughly my sentiment. I don't mind the splatters getting on the leaves and everything else, but I hate if it gets too much black on there and it kind of muddles the sentiment so you can't read it clearly. Now the best way I found to get little tiny splatters like I'm getting on this, again, is the liquid watercolors, or you could mix a little black acrylic paint with some water and use a very fine little brush and just gentle taps. I like to use a box to keep my work surface clean. There we go, that's the finished card. Thanks so much for coming by today. Hope you have a wonderful day.